Hey, I wanted to spend a little quality time with this Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Heritage Barrel from this year. This is one of my favorite pours of the year. I just wanted to do an in-depth tasting to give you an idea of why I like it so much and tell you a little bit about the bottle. So this Jack Daniel's product comes in at 100 proof. So what's a heritage barrel? So according to Jack Daniel's, a heritage barrel is a barrel that's undergone a special process. And what they've done with this Tennessee whiskey is it's aged for about 7 years in a barrel that is heavy toast, light char. So, what does that mean? So, for those of you who already understand this, you can fast forward. But if you don't know the difference between char and toast, let's talk about that a little bit. So, the difference is how heat is applied to the inside of the barrel into those wood staves. So, think about a marshmallow. So you go to a campfire, you put your marshmallow on your stick, and you walk over to that fire, and there's kind of two kinds of people. There's the people that I'm like one of them. I'm a toaster. Like I'll hold that marshmallow away from the flame so the flame never comes in direct contact to the marshmallow and kind of take my time and kind of brown it, but not letting it catch on fire. That's toasting. So they'll use some sort of indirect heat. It's usually like an infrared light source, and that will come near but not in direct contact with the inside of the barrel, and it toasts the inside of the barrel. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause some chemical reactions without getting into a lot of geeking out. It breaks down compounds called cellulose and hemicellulose into many other different products, some of them being vanillin. And vanillin is what vanilla tastes like. So by doing that toasting process, it's going to actually caramelize the wood. Another example, think about like an onion, right? You'd say you bite into a white onion and it's very sharp and acidic, but you put that in a pan and you caramelize that down and it becomes sweet because you're caramelizing, you're making a chemical reaction that caramelizes those sugars. And that's exactly what the toasting process does versus charring. So you take that same marshmallow and you're impatient. You stick that marshmallow right into the flame and it catches on fire and you kind of get like that charcoal crust on the outside. That's charring. Now, it doesn't mean that it's bad because you kind of bite that marshmallow and you're going to kind of get the toasty char plus the sweet on the inside, and that's kind of the idea here. So this is kind of highlighting some of those toasted notes that are going to again bring out the sweetness, the vanillas, and that type of flavor. And if you look on the back of the bottle, that's what it says. Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey, aged for at least 7 years in heavily toasted heritage barrels, produces a rich, balanced whiskey with strong notes of vanilla. And it's not baloney, because there is vanillin. Like you could actually, like if you did like a chemical analysis, it's in there. Vanilla, marshmallow, and toffee. So generally, like I find these Jack Daniels, these sort of super premium Jack Daniels products like the Jack Daniels 10 and the 12 and the 14. I've got a whole bunch of them down there. I'm a big fan. And I really like them anyway because they tend to go towards the sweet because of the Lincoln County process, which is the process of filtering this stuff before it goes into the barrel through a big column of maple charcoal. So it tends to already be sort of got like that mellow sweet thing going on. And then on top of that, they're aging it for this at least 7 years in those barrels. So that's kind of the backstory of this, and that's why it makes it somewhat different than some of their other offerings. And I love that I always get like a chocolate note on Jack Daniels. And the funny thing, and it's just my nose, but people get banana. A lot of people get banana, and now that chemical, it's isoamyl acetate, is a type of chemical that actually is what comes from what you'd smell in a banana. And it's actually in high concentration in Jack Daniels. So if you smell banana in Jack Daniels, you're not actually crazy. I don't know why. I don't like if you gave this to me. I always get that more of like a chocolatey thing. It's probably just my nose, but I don't get as much banana. But if you do, and you're not wrong there. I get lots of sweet notes. At 100 proof too, I think that this is one that's not overpowering with ethanol. And it's a nice, pleasant proof. I mean, obviously, it's still 50% of what's in the bottle is alcohol. Really nice. I just don't really get that banana, but what do I know? I do get a little bit of the ripe banana on the palate. This is just this is certainly in my running for the whiskey of the year for me personally. There's a lot going on, all of it pleasant. Plenty of proof at 100. I get that kind of like toasted marshmallow thing going on. I do get some of the char, a little, and you can also get tannins from the wood too. So you get a little bit of that bitterness along with the sweetness, but not a lot of bitterness. I don't want you to think that it's bitter. A little bit of spice from the wood too. It's super long finish. For typically this proof they don't have as much of a finish. Let's try one more sip here. Second sip is usually a little different for me. Now, look, there are people, that kind of think all of these tasting notes and stuff is snobbery, and yeah, maybe to some degree it is. Some people just think it's darn good whiskey, and you could leave it at that. But I definitely get that marshmallow, that vanilla. You think about like a kind of like a vanilla custard kind of thing. Again, I know for some of you, you think I'm out of my mind, but maybe I am. But I can definitely pick out that sweetness. But for those of you who are, let's say, not good about picking out notes, what I would give you as the basics: a sweet nose, definitely vanilla at the front, sweet but not cloyingly sweet. There's a little bit of the oakiness, on the finish, but not over oaked or bitter. This is super in balance. I think it's really good. And the good news is that, initially, the people go crazy over these releases, and they were, at least in the New York, Connecticut area, they were going up over $200, crazy. But I've seen them now more recently, even in my area, in that a buddy of mine just picked one up for $60, 60 to 70 range, maybe 80. I still think it's a buy at $80. I think this is a special, delicious pour. And if you can get your hands on one and you're a big Jack Daniels fan, I think this is one to try. So that's the Jack Daniels Single Barrel, Heritage Barrel, Tennessee Whiskey for 2025. As always, I hope you enjoy my channel. Please follow, like this, give me some comments, and as always, if you're looking for any additional content or anything that I can do for you, let me know. Cheers.